Welcome to the Good Old Blades podcast. I am your host, Aaron Levere, and join me as we talk to other knife makers and craftsmen about anything and everything knives. Kelly Vermeer Vella is hard to describe. As a first impression, you know she's lived a country life with her present and salt-of-the-earth demeanor, vernacular, and her beautifully weathered and furrowed hands, which portray her vocation as a farrier. But Kelly's knives portray her inner self, her pursuit of perfection in the imperfect, her play on light, motion, materials, all to juxtapose utility with art. She's no stranger to getting to the reason for a question or the heart of a problem, and that's probably why I like her so much. She's no nonsense. Kelly has spent a lifetime as a world-class farrier, which has taken her many places, but she's very quickly come into the knife scene and caused waves that have brought her to the front of the line in premier and functional knife art. She has a wide breadth of perspective that allows her to see the world that feeds into her knives in a way that takes others many years to grasp. She surrounds herself with good people who are also great craftsmen and circulates creative ideas that push the envelope. Not bad for country folk. Kelly, it's good to have you on the Good Old Blades podcast.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to finally get to talk to you on the show. So I was on the inspection committee, as it were, team at the Knife Makers Guild, and you had come by and had your knives inspected. And I have to say, it was the first time that I had seen your knives in person, but it is not the first time I had seen your knives in the industry. And there is a unique quality that your knives have, and I thought it would be really great just to get to sit and talk with you, kind of pick apart your journey to where you're at now, and kind of talk through you being a knife star at this point.
Yeah, I don't. It still seems pretty crazy and unreal to me. I'm just happily building things, and then COVID happened, and not that it really affected me that much, but there was nowhere to go, so I was just at home building things, shoeing horses and making knives. And then I went to Travis Wartz's hammering, and some guys came in. Yeah, my knives out on the table. Guys came in, and they're like, "A couple of collectors wanting to buy your knives, Kelly." I'm like, "Huh?" They're like, "Where have you been?" I'm like, "I don't know, just been here." So it happened fast.
Do you so let's talk about that. My understanding, Farrier for 30 plus years. How long have you been making knives out of that chunk of time that you've been like a farrier?
I think I kind of lost my mind at the end of 2015 because I've been dabbling a little bit and trying to play with Damascus, and I was just happy if it had lines in it, and I really didn't have any concept of knife design or what's correct, all that stuff, and so I was just making things, giving to my friends, whatever, and we had Shane Carter out for a farrier clinic, and Shane's one of my superheroes, and I blame him for this knife building infection that I got. I caught it from Shane, but he came out for a farrier clinic. Then he came to my shop after that, and there were a bunch of us. We made hoof knives, and I just wanted to make Damascus, so he told me how to make W's. So I was just happily building in Damascus while everybody else was building hoof knives, and just getting a concept of how it works, and kind of went on from there.
Yeah. Would you say then that is there a specific driver for you in knives? Is it Damascus? Like, is that the vehicle that you've used to explore these different artistic expressions, or kind of what about it makes you so fired up, as it were?
I do love the Damascus. I think it's just amazing. And once you can pull off a cool pattern, whether it was planned or not, but you pull off a cool pattern, and it just really pops. And then trying to complement the blade with all the other pieces, making a focal point, whatever. Not I'm not a fan of solid Damascus where you have a Damascus blade, Damascus guard, Damascus everything. And I think it's kind of like wearing all blue. So yeah, so I look like I'm pumping gas. So I like to cut it up with black, and then I love hot bluing things, and I think it looks nice if you do like a matte black along with the shiny black, kind of cut it up, and I don't that part's fun, and I've never been able to dress myself well, but I think I can dress up knives pretty nicely.
Well, yeah, you've gotten quite good at bluing, like hot bluing knives too. Like so from your early work, you were doing pretty good, but you have it to a different level now. Do you think that that's just repetition, or do you learn fast and fail fast in trying different things out?
It's more persistence than anything else. If it doesn't work out, I'll strip it out and do it again, strip it down and do it again. And I found a better product than what I was working with. I was using the Brownell stuff, and it is a little finicky. And so now I use Ultra Black 400 from EPI, and it's almost brainless. I mean, you've got maybe a 50-degree window that your temperature needs to be, and the longer you leave it in, the blacker it gets. So I really like that stuff.
Yeah, well, I always love tips like that because, well, I'm an apprentice right now in the ABS, and so at some point after I hopefully take the introduction of bladesmithing class to knock a year off, in 2 years I'll go in for JS. And it's mostly just me testing out my ability to work within the constraints of the ABS more so than some people try to get into the ABS because they think it's going to sell more knives or whatever. But I do. There's a portion of me that really like I admire some of the master smiths out there an awful lot, and I use that as a reference point for where I kind of want to take aspects of my own knives. And so the ABS has always seemed attractive to me because it would be an honor to be a mastersmith along with these other guys and gals.
Exactly.
And so my understanding is that you're not too far away from retaking your MS test, right?
Right. I'll be taking it in June at the Blade Show, and my set's done. My performance knife is sitting in the shop. It's pretty much done. I just need to etch it, sharpen it. Um, so anyway, reading the rules this time, so I get it right.
Yeah, well, it is one of those obscure rules. So, my understanding is that you tested, but the tang bent, and that was a disqualifier, right?
Well, I knew it was going to bend because it had to bend. And I thought I had to have a real guard. And so if I had just, lopped the lugs off my guard, because I could still pull it apart, put it back together, and just lop the lugs off my guard so the pipe went over the Picasso, it wouldn't have been an issue. And I just spent 13 hours in the truck driving to Solvang for a show and back. And at any point during those 13 hours, I could have looked up the rules and read them for 5 minutes, and then I would have known. But since couldn't be bothered to do that, I failed. So,
but you failed in a very like a spectacular. I'm not going to say spectacular because it was like it was super foolish, but it was spectacular in the sense that I think the amount of verbalizing that you've done over that oversight. It's just an oversight. It really is.
Yeah.
In every other way, the knife would have passed, right?
Yep.
And it's an oversight, and it does two things. One, it shows that mistakes do happen, and it also shows that rules, although arbitrary, are still rules, and you have to kind of submit to them at times. It's like
Exactly.
it's like spitting on the sidewalk in some jurisdictions. Like sometimes it'll put you in jail, and other times it won't. And
Yep.
I think that so you had tested with Horgan for that blade, right?
Right.
And I think that he even mentioned something too. I was seeing that kind of unfold on social, and I have to say, like, uh, holistically, I I think that it made me think more about uh, making sure that I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's, and thinking about constraints, and that these are things that these are the absolutes.
Yep.
Um, and doing that for myself, not because somebody else is telling me to do it, but maybe that there is some importance in being able to like list out the things that I do and do not want to accomplish with a certain piece or whatever, and then if that doesn't conform to that, to evaluate it and see like is this good enough met, or is it not? And I appreciate y'all being like candid and vocal about it, because I just don't think that there's a lot of that. Like failures and mistakes are so often veiled inside of knives and in art, but those are the things that actually breed us creating and figuring out things, don't you think?
Oh yeah. No, you can't be afraid to fail because you're gonna. And I think I've always been pretty good about that. Yeah. Okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And that's even I used to do Farrier competitions. And I'd be out in the shop every morning and every night building horseshoes, and they just be in a practice pile. Well, another one for the pile, and every once in a while, I'd move the pile so the ones from a year ago would be on the top, new ones be on the bottom. Like, oh God, I suck. But it's all part of the learning process. Is not being afraid to fail and not being afraid to look stupid. Nobody wants to look stupid. I don't like looking stupid. But you just gonna have to be persistent, because you're not gonna learn it until you only know what you know. And don't be afraid to ask questions from other people, and don't be afraid to humble yourself. And I think sometimes that's a little hard to go to somebody and say, I don't know, can you help me? And I've been try to be very good about that and say, I'm a dummy, can you help me please? And everybody's really open. And I try to be, if anybody asks me for help, I'm still amazed that they want my help, but they ask me for help, I try to stay right on it, and be as helpful as I can. The only thing, so I hate people who are like an asshole, who will ask you a question, and then you go through 20 minutes of explaining why, of answering their question, and then they're like, well, I'm not going to do that. If I ask somebody a question, they tell me what to do, I'm going to do it. Even if it's wrong, if it doesn't work out, I'm still going to do it, because I just hate people to waste your time, and I hate wasting somebody else's time because they can do something else besides answering my question. And I mean, like John Horgan and Bill Burke and Vermeer Vella and a whole pass of others, Rick Dunkerley. I mean, these guys have spent a lot of time, on Messenger, on the phone, or whatever, helping me along. And I think it's just a slap in the face not do the best you can.
Well, yeah, and I think it's difficult sometimes, because I think asking questions and knowing knowing how to ask them is an important component of life, not just the knives. Like, yeah, I can't tell you how many times people have asked me something, and they say, like, their response is, "Oh, I know, I know, I know." I was like, well, why are you asking me in the first place? If you know everything, then don't ask the question. But it's also that some people, like when you're like critiquing a knife or whatever, like you might pick apart things and say, hey, like this could have been done differently or whatever, and people get a little bit upset over that. And I'm
Right.
like, well, I think it's important. Don't ask a question that you're not prepared for the potential answers to. There's people that
Mm-hmm.
come up and they're like, I like you as a person, but I don't really like your knives, or something about your design aesthetic just is not me. And it's okay. It's okay to not like what I make, but I think we have a mutual respect that can be given to each other for like a professional courtesy at least, and you have to be prepared. Uh, you have to be prepared to for the answer, and I mean, I don't know. That seems like an adult, like true to life type of thing, but it seems like in knives especially, I've seen it coalesce into a lot of people getting really hurt over a question that they asked that they just weren't prepared for the answer on.
Sorry, my dogs are racing around being idiots because apparently they want to be on here too. I think they just slowed down. They're very distracting.
Dogs usually
They're
are.
just tearing around having a grand old time.
But yeah, well, and so you've really had a lot of like really great teachers and mentors and things through your rise in this um, in the knives that you're creating. I mean, they're not just fine knives like fine craftsmanship, but they're just they capture an element of form and function to me that's very evocative. And I'm interested in, do you collect makers like your mentors and things? Are they a part of your like the arrows in your quiver specifically, like because of the techniques and stuff like that they're good at, or how exactly do you come to a place where you like your mentors tours are some of the best in the entire world for what it is that they
Well,
do?
it's. I mean, obviously, I see something in their knives, just their style or whatever, that super impresses me, and I want a little piece of that. And it's like I don't think it's wrong in the beginning to I guess plagiarize a little bit. I mean, because you don't know, you're like I want to make that, so I'm gonna try to do that to the best of my ability, and then it'll spin off to your own thing pretty quickly, I think. But yeah, I've tried to seek out people who I really respect and whose work really speaks to me. And I'm like, that's just amazing. I want to do that. I don't know how they did that, but I want to do that. And I think it's awesome. It just keeps pushing you to be better. There's some smart person once said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I've tried to surround myself, even in the horseshoeing world, I've tried to surround myself with people who are better than me. And the same in the knife maker world.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I want to talk a little bit about what got you into being a farrier. I grew up around livestock and farming and stuff in rural Pennsylvania, and so they're like farriers were kind of like always sitting on the periphery, but I never, I guess, got the idea that I wanted to be a farrier, right? But moving down to Texas and the horse culture down here, and the fact that I live not that far from Texas Farrier Supply, I guess I've gained a deeper appreciation for the just how big the farrier world is. Like, what got you into that 30 plus years ago?
35 last month. Um,
35.
yeah, I worked on a ranch and waited till the last minute to call somebody to get a horse shod. And then so I was having a hard time finding someone, cheap enough. And one guy had a broken toe or something. And I'm like, come on, it's just one horse, Mr. Broken Toe. If you don't do it, I'll do it. He's like, fine. I'm like, fine. So I'm out there, poor horse. His name is Burrito. And he's dead now, but he'd be dead by now anyway. And luckily, there were a couple guys shoeing out at the barn. They kind of helped me along a little bit. And then I just started shoeing the horses at the ranch. It just poorly. I mean, it was horrible. And one of the farriers, I started going with him, and then he told me about another farrier who's the best one in the area, and kind of really changed the whole scene for us because we're all like one big happy family. I mean, we all hang out, we work together. If you stop by, you see somebody shoeing horses, you start shoeing horses with them. You're like, oh, let's go shoe some horses. This is fun, which is kind of weird. But that guy, his name was Emil Correa, and he worked at a big vet hospital we have here. And he got me into, oh, he let me show up at the shop and pull shoes and finish feet and do whatever. And introduced me to Farrier competitions. And basically, it's like art with horseshoes. So you're making horseshoe art, but it also has to be functional horseshoe art. And so through these competitions, I met a whole bunch of talented people, and really helped me along my journey. But I was nuts over that for a few years. Traveled all over the world. Um, Went to France a couple times. Went to Canada a bunch. Went to Australia, and just for farrier competitions and all over the U.S. And it was really cultivated my love for building things. I love making things. I always have. Yeah, I like working on trucks, which is silly, um, but I can keep them going. My truck's a '94. It's so snowball right here, still rolling like a tractor. Uh, and I just love to make things. I like horses, so it's nice to just trimming the feet and then fitting what you've made and fitting it well. Uh, I don't know. It's really gratifying for me. So I'm like, damn, that's nice. And I love shoeing horses because there's an instant gratification there. You've done it in an hour and you've got a finished product. You're like, ooh, yeah, you the chick, or I could have done better or whatever. And knives, it's the epic project. It takes a bit. So it's nice to go. I shoe horses about 3 or 4 days a week, and have that instant gratification of actually being able to complete something. And then I can go home in the shop and tweak out on a knife for however long it takes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's something that I've talked about a few times in the past, but it's just that there is some monotony in knives, and there's also sometimes when you get into a funk when you can't wrap your head around like that next operation that you have to do, especially when you're pushing things. And so
Yep.
it's always good to be able to step back and do something else. If it's in knives, if it's something that makes you feel accomplished for that moment. Those are like those little baby steps that you take to those like big gallops that you have to perform in certain things. And it's interesting that the normal vocation of being a farrier is that thing for you, because for me, I don't look at, like, I work in cybersecurity, and I don't look at like my day job as being the thing to break up the monotony of what I do in the shop. I look at things that, like, micro processes in the shop that kind of take me away from psyching myself out over something.
Right.
But I think it's great that you still get to um, ply the craft of smithing, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
inside of what you're doing as a normal vocation and everything. So that seems fun. Um, how is it primarily with well, I'm gonna take a step here back. It seemed like when I was growing up and everything that there were some unforgivable things that happened to horses, that if those things happened, you basically had to put it down. It was like lame horse. There's nothing you could do about it. How has that is that true? And as a farrier, do you see like more regenerative medicine or things for horses that help them to overcome lameness, like beyond like, okay, well, you're useless, we got to put you down now?
Oh yeah, you bet. And then shoot, the hospital I work at, I end up working at the same vet hospital, and but we've got like cat scans and MRIs, and you can do all sorts of neat stuff for horses. I feel like I'd be better taking care of that hospital than if I went to a people hospital. Um, I don't know. I lost one yesterday, and that was the laminitis, the horse foundered. So basically, the bone in their foot was ready to go through the bottom. The main bone in the foot was just, and the horse was in a lot of pain. And even if we tried to push through it and save him, it was going to be a long, hard road of the horse going through a lot of pain. So you have to think about the well being at the end too. But yeah, that's tough. I hate losing one. Um, but for the most part, I feel like I can help a lot. I'm an old horse shoer, so I work on a lot of old horses, and it's funny because the older I get, the more sympathetic I am to their aches and pains too. I'm like, all right, guys, you got to let it hold up and get under him, stay under the center of the horse. He's not that stretchy anymore. It'd be a little faster. He can't bend his leg that long. Stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, veterinary medicine and just the even the hoof care products that come out now, really can do a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I've seen some of the, uh, I guess, rubber and polymer shoes and things like that, like all these compounds that you use to like fill voids and do other stuff like that around the shoe. That to me seems like magic, like basically prosthetics of sorts to help aid in the shoeing process. Um, so, what would you say the percentage is of horses that you can't save or can't do anything for now versus maybe 35 years ago?
Um, I can answer that. I'll just say 12. I'm pulling one out of there, 12%. And yeah, the rubber shoes, I would say they're not my favorite in the world, but they have their place. Everything's got their place. I'm a fan of good old American steel or Chinese, wherever it comes from. But yeah, I'm a fan of steel. Stick those plastic things in the forge and they melt every time. But they do have their place.
Yeah. Well, I like your percentage 12, but well, I guess maybe it's like to me, there's a perception of like horse care and veterinary medicine and things like that that is largely ignorant. Oddly enough, I had always wanted to be a veterinarian, like from the time I was like a really small kid.
Really?
Yeah, and um, because of the education that I had when I was younger, I was homeschooled and everything. I always felt like super stupid. Like I was like, "There's no way that this like hillbilly from like the mountains in Pennsylvania is going to be smart enough to get into veterinary school." And uh, and so I got out on my own. I was working in IT and everything like that. And there was some point in time where I was like, you know what? Like the only person who's like really telling me I'm stupid is me, and I gotta
Right.
explore that for myself. So I put myself into community college and I put myself into university, and I got to the point where I was on track to take all of my core classes that are required in order to get pre-med pre-vet, and I was doing well. And then I got offered a job in IT that I was like, man, like I had to look at the financial curve on veterinary school, and I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
could do another like year and a half of this. I could get my biology degree, and I could probably get into veterinary school. But I would be so far in debt, and this job puts me on a track where within a very short period of time, like I don't have to worry about anything. And so I chose that. And I guess I got to a place where I ticked off that thing where it's like, I can do this if I really wanted to. It was going to be a lot of like hours and a lot of sacrifice and many years of, um, you know,
Yep.
being in somebody else's practice and then having to start my own practice and whatnot. And so I just was like, I don't know if that is for me anymore. I guess I aged out of the dream of being a veterinarian, but um, I've always really admired animal care, and there is some portion of me that wonders now if I am too sympathetic to do something like that.
Yeah. It is a noble profession, but I think you made the right choice. You'd still be paying off your student
Oh
loans.
yeah, 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 and that was a problem to me, um, because I mean, I don't know. There were some figures that were like in the $300,000+ range for the education and everything. So the rest of my undergrad and then going to A&M or whatever. And I was like, dude, I can't be in debt for $500,000 without you know without knowing that this is actually something that that is going to work out in the end. It's like, maybe 20 years from now, I'll have everything done and have my own practice, but I'm still going to be working like, insane hours because you get all the worst hours when you enter a practice.
Oh yeah.
But I never occurred to me to actually try to get into the uh, vocation of being a farrier. But man, I respect the hell out of you guys.
That's the best job in the world. I just drive around, listen to music, talk to people, and build stuff all day long.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Do you think that that's one of the reasons why you're kind of on this path that you are, because you're just like, solving problems all day long and making friends and being, a person first and an artisan is kind of like stems from that?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, I mean, I love to create things. I think it's neat. It's like I did that, and even if like little doodads need to be built around the house, or my husband needs a new handle for his boat doors or something, I'm like, I got that. Give me 20 minutes, I'll be back, and I'll make something. But it's pretty fun being able to fabricate things. Now, I need to learn more about machining. That's my well, it's not my next project. My next is engraving, but and do some engraving and some gold inlay. See where that takes me, but just a little more.
Yeah. What are your plans for engraving? I mean, that's one of the things that man, there are so many just wonderful engravers out
Hmm.
there. But the thing that I've always thought about is like, one, it is a little bit cost prohibitive, but the other is that you have to
You
wait.
have to wait.
And yeah, and I think that's probably like my biggest thing. It's like, so I've thought about engraving, but I just don't have the room for engraving material. Microscope, all that stuff. What are your plans for trying to get into the engraving space? Are you just going to do it yourself, or do you have specific classes or things like that that you're trying to focus
Yeah, I
on?
just got back from GRS couple weeks ago, and because Rick Dunkerley told me, and Bill Rupel, like, you need to learn to engrave. That's Kelly. You need to do this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that. You guys tell me that I'm gonna do it. Enough smart people tell me I need to do something, I will do it. And so I went to engraving school. I really enjoyed it. I think I'm not too terrible at it yet. Um, so like this morning, I'm setting up my bench. I got all my stuff from GRS, and then it's got to be in a clean area, which isn't my shop. So we're putting in a little she shed outside here. I have my cute little office, my engraving stuff in it, and just make a point to go out. I think mornings are probably best. Go out in the morning and engrave for an hour or two, then go to work, and then come home, build knives. Um, but yeah, because I make this stuff with the big blank space in it. I'm like that, like a penny guard wouldn't be cool if there were like little flowers on my pennies or something. There's some gold inlay or something. I've used Alice Carter. She's got one of mine right now, and she does a beautiful job. So, and I know Alice will help me out. And then Tyler Porter from Texas. Uh, Tyler's handy, and we've done one project together. We'll probably do some more. But so I don't know if I want to do all my own stuff, but it'd be nice just to be able to bling it up fast, and then I realize I'm my own top priority, but I'm not always everybody else's top priority on getting things done. They got other things to do too. So, like you said, the wait time. It'd be nice just to go out to my little engraving shop and engrave my thing.
Yeah, I mean, or at least, well, I'm the same way with like sheaths. Like, I suck at leather, to be honest with you. Like, is not my thing. I think if I spent enough time at it, I'd probably be pretty good at it, but I just don't have the time to do that separately. But there are times when I'm like, I wonder if this idea would work or whatever, and I go and cut the stuff out and take my time or whatever. But I'm actively trying to like figure out what it is that I like, And
Right.
I've thought a lot about that in engraving. It's just like, there are certain concepts um, that I want to be able to explore that I might not might not want to pay somebody else to explore with me. I just want to do it myself and figure out if it can be done. And so I think that engraving in a lot of ways allows you to play in that space where it's like, you have an idea and you're like, I have this canvas and I can do this thing myself. And you get good enough at it, then you're the person that people know for, with that thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I say that this whole authorship thing is cool. I mean, it's, I made this whole thing. I like that.
Yeah. Are you, so talk to me a little bit about the GRS process and everything, because I've seen pictures from different knife makers and things like that. I kind of share a little portion of it, but what does the class look like, and what's the experience overall, and like what you end up doing?
I think it's set up for 12 students, I think, and everybody's got their bench with all their engraving things. They give you all sorts of stuff to start with, and we had a master engraver, Lane Zelke, and he was great. And basically, it's kind of monkey see, monkey do, and they show you how to set up your equipment and how to make everything fit you and how to focus your scope and how to sharpen your gravers and doing transfers and things like that. That was all right off the bat. But it was a 5 day class. It really wasn't very much money for a 5 day class. Um, and you're under the scope for, I don't, you can stay extra later for a couple of days, but 7 or 8 hours a day, that's what you're doing is engraving. It's pretty awesome. And then, stop and get like a little class and show us something and then back to cutting. And what I thought was really cool is a couple of the guys in the class were employees of GRS. They were new employees. And so people doing like designing things and doing more important things, they go through the classes too. So the guy that's selling you your equipment, he engraves. I mean, the gal signing you up and whatever, she engraves. Everybody does it, and it's a huge operation. I mean, they build almost everything, I think, except for the scopes, but pretty much everything is built right there. I swear they must employ half of Emporia, Kansas, but I was really impressed with the whole setup. And just the fact the person you're talking to is trying to sell you stuff is and he wasn't trying to sell me things that I didn't need. He's like, oh, you don't need that, you don't need that. The last thing, I had to convince him that I needed it. I'm like, oh no, John Horgan says this is his favorite toy and I want that too. So um but I was really impressed with the school.
Yeah. And what so far? What's your favorite component of engraving? Do you like the gold inlay component, or like a relief, or kind of where are you leaning right now?
So right now I just know how to do scrolls and lines and working on some shading and just basically there's a bunch of little practice plates that you do and just learn how to cut and making flare cuts which give life to design you're making. Um, so I got a long ways to go. I mean, I'm like fresh out of school and have it engraved because I'm setting up my bench right now. But I'm excited about it. I mean, gold really sets things off. Obviously, everybody loves gold. They have for forever, and in filling in those blank spaces for me. So I think there's going to be obviously a learning curve, trying to tastefully fill in those spaces without overdoing it.
Yeah, yeah, man. The sky's the limit, pretty much. Like if you can engrave, then you don't have to worry about the design constraints of like empty space, right? I mean,
Right.
you can you can design a knife around canvas area and then be able to fill that again with some other concept that you're working on. So, man, to me, it seems like it's really cool to be able to do that holistically, because it really does uh, take some of the fetters off of design principles and things, because you can just say, well, like I do have this open space, but heck, I'm gonna design something specifically to put on there to make it not blank. But have you thought about like stone inlays and things like that yet as part of engraving, or is that something that you are really interested in getting into?
Of course. Um, yeah, I'm gonna learn some stuff about setting stones and doing some inlays. I usually make a annual pilgrimage to Texas in December, so I'm gonna go to Jim Poor shop for 3 or 4 days, and then and John Horgan will come down there, and then I'll go to John's shop for a few days after that. And then we're gonna do like an inner frame. It's gonna be an auto. I think it's gonna be an auto. Uh, and learn how to set stone and more machining. He's taught me a lot about machining, which is awesome, and a lot about everything else too. But I'm excited about that. Last year I did dagger class, and then this year we're going to do the inner frame.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. So I was recently talking with Bob Tesorola, and he's like the godfather of tactical folders, right?
Uh-huh.
And I saw briefly that he on like he's like one of the few makers that has a Wikipedia page, right? And it said on his Wikipedia page that he had spent time in South America jade carving. And so I talked to him more about jade carving, and it really reignited a thought of mine of doing lapidary, like being able to carve stones and things like that as part of components for
Right.
knives. Not just the stone setting component, but being able to actually carve stuff and then be able to use that as a facet in knives too. But he does that, like he puts jade, like green jade and black jade and things like that into his knives and does all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. There's too much. There's too much stuff to like distract me in knives. I don't know. Maybe it's not a distraction, but I thought about that in the sense that there are so many different stones out there, natural formations, jasper, and other things that you learn the components of carving stone, and you can incorporate that into aspects of knives too. And if I get the space, the lapidary portion of things is a component I'm going to add as well.
Yeah. I think that takes up a lot more room than engraving stuff.
Well, yeah, there's a machine that you can buy that I guess it has a central drivetrain, and then you have wheels that are impregnated with diamonds of different microns,
Yep.
right? And other than supplying the water to it, you have what, one, two, three, between 6 and 8 stone wheels to be able to carve things, plus your initial cutter. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, about I'm gonna say maybe a little bit more space than engraving, but it does kind of require its own dirty room of sorts because you have all this
Exactly.
slurry and everything that's going everywhere. But
Yeah, it's not going in my clean room, that's for darn
yeah.
sure.
Well, yeah, it's like you have to have a clean room for engraving and a dirty room for grinding and a dirty room for lapidary stuff.
Yeah, everything's pretty dirty out in the shop. I got an exciting thing. I just got three-phase power.
Oh yeah.
So we just got uh, my phase converter hooked up last week because I scored a big, beautiful surface grinder. Um, It'll be 2 years in December. It's been a long time. It's just been sitting there taking up a lot of space. So just moved it in the shop. The folks are coming out tomorrow to get her all wired up, and hopefully it works.
Yeah.
If not, they'll hook me up with another machine. But that'd be a game changer
Yeah.
to have a real surface grinder.
Yeah. What have you been using to date? Like a belt fixture, or what? How you surface?
Yeah, I've got a belt fixture and I've got the TW90 also. So I've got two. But the stone one is so nice, and it's all automated. It'll do things while I'm doing something else. I love that. It's like having a little buddy out there helping me.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I in the versatility world, belts makes a lot of sense, but there are some things that you just can't get absolutely flat with a belt. That's, I mean, Tim Robertson in Marietta, Oklahoma, slip joint maker and everything, and he like I understood some of the like the basic fundamentals of surface grinding, but he really helped me hone that skill set. Thinking about using a stone surface grinder as a machinist, and there are some ways that you can get things like dead flat down to like half 10,000ths or more. I mean, I know that the surface grinder like with stones can get down to like the 50 millionth or whatever, but those kind of tolerances really not required for our type of work. But for like when you're doing pocket knives and things that are metal on metal, and there's a lot of like visibility for things that are not true, a stone really makes it advantageous. Like I honestly don't know. If I remember correctly, Rick Dunkerley uses a belt modified surface grinder. And like to me, like the way that he is able to get his fit and finish on a belt with that, I mean, even an aluminum wheel is confounding to me. Like I think that whatever he's figured out is just like beyond what I consider the normal capabilities of a belt surface grinder, but he's managed to do it.
Yeah, he makes amazing stuff, and I love the flow of Rick's work. He's got, I mean, the knives have a lot of sex appeal. I'm just the complementary curves, kind of a lot of his Persian style ones. I'm like, God, that's a pretty knife. But he's got the artistic thing figured out, but just the flow. I mean, he makes amazing stuff.
So I'm we talked a little bit about you know being a farrier and ranching and stuff like that. What do you think, like, I'm interested to know, I guess, what made you the way that you are. Have you always been like this uh, challenger? Like a challenging this, like, I guess this. I'm trying to think of a way to put it. It's my observation of you is that if somebody tells you no, you're not going to take their word for it, right? And then you're going to prove them wrong.
I'm probably getting pounded on by two older brothers.
Yeah.
But
have you always been like that? Is that just part of your nature of from when you were a kid and everything, or like kind of what stems this desire to prove your worth and to prove that something can happen?
my parents are really cool. Parents are super supportive, always have been, and they're my number one fans. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe because I was always a little bit different, I was striving to be better. Maybe that's it. I was kind of a. I know I can believe this, but I've been called a tomboy once or twice. But boy stuff is way more fun to do than girl stuff is. Everybody knows it. And, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a free spirit. I always loved riding horses and I've always loved building things. So when I was in high school, I discovered the auto shop, and my dad used to buy cars at the auction. They'd have something wrong with them, and then I'd fix them in the auto shop. And I just loved it. I mean, I spent every moment that I wasn't in class that I was in the auto shop building something, and just found I really enjoyed that. Yeah, so even I mean, I was canning for a while. I really enjoyed that. I was making something there too. But I can't see getting bored making knives because there's so many different avenues. It's just the possibilities are endless. You just go on, and whatever idea comes up, well, I can make that. Let's try it. Let's draw a picture and try it.
Yeah. Well, and I get that. I mean, I found the same thing. Like knives, it's one of these things that has a weird, like, there's weird subcultures. So like, yeah, we sit in like a niche of artistry and making things or whatever, but then there's so many subcultures, and sometimes in some areas you have bureaucracy, in others you have gatekeeping, in other ways you have just like the underground where everybody just wants to like share knowledge and do really interesting, like obtuse things.
Right.
And that's something that I've really appreciated about it. Is like Knives is multifaceted and touches so many different areas of artistry. You have glass blowing and jewelry making and leather craft and engraving and stone setting, lapidary. Like there's just like you could really go down a rabbit hole every day
Sure
and
could.
never have something that stops you, like in the way that you can ideate out of it, I guess.
I like the idea of making family heirlooms too. I think that's pretty neat. Something that's gonna get passed down and down, and I don't know, like collector's items. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, like that's something that um, I've trying to think of a way to frame this. I don't know the most about the Japanese culture around swords and edged weapons, right?
Hmm.
Like I can't name a bunch of makers. I can't name all the different steel types and things like that. But what I've appreciated as a broad um, uh, understanding is that you have all these like Japanese masters in swords and things like that, and the techniques that they use are honed and carried over for like hundreds of years. And then those things are put together and they're so elegantly balanced and functional and in some ways just have very gaudy pieces to them. And then they would sit in a family's home and they would be the crown jewels of that family, passed down for more hundreds of years. And at the same time they would be used in war to protect the family and its honor and everything.
Yeah,
And I've thought about that in Knives too, where being able to capture a portion of that functional art and for it to mean something to that family, to me is an interesting uh, you know subsection, I guess. Like a thing that I think about is like, are my knives going to be carried by somebody, and well, once I'm gone and everything, like what's that thing that makes that like a knife last generations?
exactly. It's a pretty cool concept for me. I'm just kind of blown away by it. But so since it is kind of forever, so being a farrier, you get into a little bit of this. You know, if something goes a little bit wrong, you put a little dip in the foot or whatever like that. It'll grow out in 6 weeks. I'll fix it. Knives aren't like that, not unless you make all takedowns. But once you glue it up, it's like a forever thing. I gotten pretty good at sneaking the handles back off again. But yeah, glue does not fix problems. That's my word of wisdom for today. Nothing's going to get fixed by gluing it together and then trying to fix it. But yeah, I had to get out of the 6 week mentality. And, this is like forever. It's a forever thing. You better do it right.
I'm 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 intrigued by like your journey through exploring Damascus and whatnot. Like your riptide pattern is like phenomenal. But I like what got you into this exploration and Damascus patterns and things like that originally, other than what I know that you mentioned that you were you had played with some like random pattern and things like that. But I mean, now that you're doing all this like real crazy stuff, kind of like what spurred you on to go down this route and with real complex patterns and mosaics and things.
Well, I mean, Damascus is mesmerizing. You just look at it, and I'm sure if I smoke drug cigarettes, you could smoke a drug cigarette and sit there and stare at it, and all sorts of neat things would show up. But I mean, it is amazing that you can control a pattern like that. I mean, there's a lot of people who do it way better than I do with super controlled patterns. But I always wanted to make things that you could distort and make flow, and kind of went along with the lines of the knife or whatever. And so just like making a pattern and then forging your knife into it, you're going to see that you forged that pattern in it, and you can make it move. So that was the riptide thing. Was um, I tended to overforge feathers and just turn them into the seaweed that runs out the front. And so, I'm like, wow, I managed to turn that into straight lines. I worked really hard at it. So I was trying to create a better half a feather, is what I wanted, and just messing around. And it was funny because I didn't even know what I had. And I remember the morning I was right out there. I'd etched that thing and looked at it, put a little practice etch, and I'm like, oh, holy damn, look what you did. Look at that. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And the cool part is I can reproduce it and make it over and over and over again. And it's really hard to overforge, but it takes some processes to get it there. But yeah, I found my niche with that one. So then I try to expand off that one pattern. I can, you know, add some extra dark stuff in the middle, or throw in a piece of pure nickel, or do whatever I want to it, where it still has the same concept of it. It looks like a wing and flows with the blade, but I can change it up a little bit. So I don't know, that's kind of, and then I don't want to be a one trick pony and just make the one thing. So I'll make some mosaics, and I got some other ideas of stuff I want to play with. But for every day I spend out here building steel and forging or whatever, you have 9,000 hours of finish work. So I'm onto the finish work thing right now.
Yeah, I get that. So, I mean, how much time would you say on your work that you spend and bench time versus the forging and construction component of things?
Oh, probably 90, I bet you. Because yeah, I'll have like two. I call it my day of fun, Kelly's day of fun. I'll just sit out here and swing a hammer for a couple of days, and obviously I have a power hammer and a very nice press and things like that. But yeah, and I'm like, wow, this is gonna take a long time to finish. I'm getting faster. I'm getting more efficient. I'm getting a little smarter about stuff. Um, One thing I'm learning is to, if things aren't going correctly, is just stick that sucker in a drawer and wait till you get smarter. It might be a month or two or a year, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I can fix that. And I'm working on one right now that I've been just throwing around the shop for the last year and a half, and using it to you know, scrape the rouge out of my cork belts, and cutting kale wool with it. And also, I picked it up the other day. I'm like, I couldn't remember what I hated about it so much. And so now it's got a new life. It's fixing to be a knife here pretty quick. And it's a really nice one.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've seen anything that you've produced that I haven't liked, and that's a
I,
really
I don't show those.
cool piece of you. Well,
Thank you.
uh, well, I that is interesting to me too. We live in a great time. Well, it's a bad time because I really do hate social media in some ways. But it is a good time in the sense that a person doesn't get to like rest on these laurels of like I always produce the greatest thing ever.
Right.
There's so many times when you get to see little snapshots of like the behind the scenes. Like there's some times when I really have to nurture a nice knife out of what I consider a turd looking thing,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And it's not that it's not even that everything starts off looking mostly like the end product, right? I mean, that with Damascus, it's just like it's a graduation of getting to that final thing. Not so much that it starts out existing in that pretty state.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that we do get the ability to share a little bit more like behind the curtain, and that's what I've appreciated over the last maybe 5 or 6 years of seeing knives in social media, is that it kind of demystifies, I don't think it deglamorizes, but it definitely demystifies some of those things where it's like this is the progressive steps to get to that final result. and it seems a little bit more obtainable if you know that there are some processes that just start out real ugly, and you got to be the one to add the beauty to it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I enjoy that. I probably should do it more. And if I wasn't such a pathetic loser about, finishing things or screwing stuff up and having to start it over again, I guess that's good Facebook too, or good social media also. But I'm like, I should put all my steps down on, and then I just don't get around to it because it's almost like a job. Once you post something, then you've got to follow up on it. And when you're doing that, everything I do takes two hands. So, you have to do that also. So there's like a little time constraint there. I guess I'm a little greedy with my time. Don't have a lot of it.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
busy.
yeah, I mean that, like you do that and you see you post processes and stuff, and then you have a bunch of like little Kelly's asking you how you did that thing, and then you got to be the one to explain it, and you're gonna
Exactly.
you're gonna be the person that everybody's coming to ask a bunch of questions so that they can learn too.
Yeah.
It's a seal that maybe sometimes should not be unbroken.
Yeah, I guess some people are good at, taking that and turning it into a money maker. But I don't know. I always figure I already have my jobs. I shoot horses. I make knives. What I bring in from my blades. I mean, it's not bad. I'm doing all right, but obviously it's not as good as well as I do shooting horses. But I figure I'll shoot horses long enough to amass my huge pile of very expensive equipment, and then I'll already have it, and I can sit at home and make knives, right?
Yeah, I would say that's the way to do it. I mean, getting all of your equipment and everything, and kind of curating your shop is probably the largest jumping off point, I think, for people going full time into knives.
Yeah,
Just because, man, equipment is expensive.
yeah, and I'm lucky because I've had a lot of this stuff for they say over 30 years. Definitely have plenty of forges and anvils and hand tools. But you got to buy expensive grinders, and then you have to start with one, and then well, what if the one breaks? So you might as well buy another one, right? Because nobody wants to be around me without a grinder. So I figured it was in my husband's best interest if I bought a second grinder just in case something happened to the first grinder. So I have to think about other people also in that respect.
Yeah, magnanimous. Well, I mean, and then you get to the point too where you're like, what? Something I've appreciated about Bill Ruppel, right, is that he's very good at communicating the economy of making knives,
Yeah.
right? It's like, so if you make this knife, you're going to sell it for this amount of time, or for this amount, and really the only way to make it profitable is to be able to do certain operations very efficiently, right?
Yep.
And in that same vein, the one use tool in your shop, right, is sometimes, like if you have like 5 or 6 grinders, you don't have to change belts on the machine. You just change machines, and you can progress through these operations that you have. So maybe one. I mean, it's not out of the question that you have 5 or 6 grinders. That's
Oh, you're
definitely.
gonna make me go shopping. Go
You
shopping.
just need to. You just need to get. You need to just decide to bite the bullet all at the same time and just buy a few of them, get a volume discount,
There we go. My
because
my
it's.
problem here is we got like 120 amp service or something ridiculous like that. So just I have a power issue. I'm not allowed to run two things at once. like even the new surface grinder, I'm not gonna be able to run the power hammer and the surface grinder at the same time. Which kind of sucks, but I'll just do something else. So that little bit of a lack of power out here. My dream shop, everything's gonna be set up correctly. All my hot stuff isn't gonna be in the hottest spot of the shop, which is where it's at now. And I'm gonna have unlimited power. It'd be
Unlimited
awesome.
cosmic power. Um, yeah. So I mean, that's interesting. Are you is are, how's like your dream shop look? It's so weird. I talk to knife makers about this a lot because I think that the shop is never big enough. But like, what does your dream shop look like? And are you planning when you kind of get to that phase, uh, building it on your property and everything? You guys like, would you like to move somewhere different, or kind of what does that dream look like for you?
Oh, they always talk about, moving to out of California, but my parents are here, and I spend a lot of time with them. I'm not leaving them. So and we do have a very nice piece of property. I have most people's dream shop. I mean, it's big, and probably my dream shop would have like a nice office, clean room or whatever, and more big fancy equipment. But I do kind of have the dream shop. I have an amazing shop. I've got a lot of cool stuff. I'm blessed in that respect, and and we have a nice piece of property. I'm kind of running out of room to expand too because I've already added onto it twice. So I'm running out of expansion room. We're gonna not gonna have a driveway anymore. I
That's
have
okay.
to
Who needs a
knock
driveway?
down part of the house so I can make the shop bigger.
Well, do you have the ability to expand another power drop into the property, like to get the power that you're looking for?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure it'd be really expensive, but probably.
Yeah, I honestly am not sure how that all that works. You could probably talk to people who are a lot smarter than me. Like I remember um, when I was younger, we had a main line to the house, and then my parents had put a trailer on the second portion of the property because it was like I don't know, it was like 7 acres,
Uh huh.
and so they got a separate power drop to the trailer and everything, so it could run independently of the what was on the house. So, oddly enough, it was just a far enough up the road where sometimes if the power went out during storms or whatever, the trailer would get power and have heat and everything like that in the winter or whatever, and the house wouldn't. But yeah, you can. I'm sure you could probably explore that with the power company, like what that would cost to actually do it. And I don't. It's not. It's not unreasonable. I don't think. I mean, it's not like $30,000. It's not like
I
sinking a
think it's
well or
like thirty
whatever.
thousand dollars.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty
you could
sure.
do it.
I think that's the number that I've heard thrown around.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, that is one thing. Like, I can't do that either. Like, I'm on a residential power line and everything, and so I don't even have a rotary phase converter on my surface grinder. I have a static phase converter for just that one thing, and then for everything else, I use variable speed or variable frequency drives.
Uh huh.
But on the big machinery, you can't really get away with that so much. So,
Exactly. Yeah, I got this really cool. It's a 60-ton press with it's got a rolling mill and a twister that'll twist 2 inch. This thing's a monster, but it's like 39 and a half amp or something. So that I
jeez,
mean the lights dim when you turn it on, and it'll squish some stuff and it'll twist it.
is it a custom made one or is there a manufacturer for it?
I think he built about six and then quit. It was uh, Kyle Fisher, Blackfish Industrial.
Uh huh.
But I think he just built a few and then stopped building them.
Yeah, which is apt to happen whenever you're machining stuff and fabricating things. It's like I've done some small tools and like pin presses and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and after a few of them, it's kind of like I'm not doing this anymore. Like I spend so much time like stopping what I'm doing to drill holes and flatten stuff and weld
Right.
things and like the tool makers I appreciate, but because it's nice sometimes to buy versus build. But man, like I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and then plus that too much of a repetition thing too.
Yeah,
Gotta make something different all the time, a little bit
yeah.
different.
Well, and there's no like making tooling and stuff. There's not really a great line in the sand of like how you value your time either. Because on these pin presses, I could buy the raw materials for I don't know maybe like $150. And I would spend probably like, you know, 15, 20 hours making the thing and I'd sell it for $400. And I'm like, I'm not even,
There
Yeah, I'm
you
like,
go.
I'm not even getting knife making prices for this tool, and
You're
I
right.
have like three knives in it. But yeah, I mean, it's like, but I felt bad. It's like you can't charge $1,000 for a simple pin press. I mean, it has a few very good uses, but it's like really difficult to uh, feel feel good about charging another knife maker or whatever like a lot of money to just do some simple operations.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I think uh, one of the last questions I really have inside of what we've been talking about is like I'm interested to know because in I- it's obvious that you haven't just come on the scene, right? I mean, you've been doing this for so long, and like in the blacksmithing and farrier a component of things that it should not be new to some people to see that to uh, I guess see that you're just cropped up. I mean, you've been doing this for a while, and your social media has shown a lot of great progression in your work too. Um, what would you recommend to younger makers starting out to get to a place where they, um, I don't know, maybe capture a component of your passion or whatever? Are there some things that you would recommend based on your experience to spur other like newer makers on?
I would say, well, farriers are into, or the group of farriers I was raised with. I mean, we're into further education. We're into to going to school. Like you were talking about, wanting to be a vet and the time spent at school. I guess I didn't have to spend that amount of time at school and be probably going to school the whole time. So like I've got a farrier clinic next weekend. Go learn some stuff. That's exciting. I love learning things. And then you're surrounding yourself with people who are better than you, and then just even the other students that you're interacting with. I think you all push each other. Even some of the guys I met in engraving school, are texting me, "How you doing? What's up? Send me a picture of your bench, whatever." So I think you need to like inject yourself into just the camaraderie part, and I said hanging out with people who are smarter than you, and asking questions and trying different things and not being afraid to fail. And I think everybody says, "Oh, you're so talented, so talented." I'm persistent, is what I am. I'm just, oh no, I'm bullheaded. I'm going to finish this thing, and I'm going to figure it out. And sometimes I say you got to do the throwdown and do something else for a minute until you get the answer. And like, okay, all right, now I can do that. I'm going to go back onto it. And so I don't know if there's a special recipe. We're all made a little bit different, and some people are more motivated than others. But I never felt like I went out. I didn't start out to make beautiful knives. I was just building stuff because it was fun. I wanted to build hunting knives, whatever. And just once you start seeing the possibilities out there, I think that pushes you on. And then, like I said, your relationships with other people, like-minded people. I think that's pretty awesome. Also, I've made a lot of great friends in both industries. Man, I know a lot of people. I have friends all over the world. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, well, I think that's good advice. I mean, I think that that's one difficult it's one difficult piece to think about um, just doing right to just there's no real easy quick routes to things that it just takes time and it takes energy
Yep.
and it takes persistence. And that's one theme that I've captured, I think, pretty well across knife making is that you just got to do it, right?
Yeah.
You got to put in the time, you got to earn your way, and I think that there are some people that think that like paying your dues is something like paying your dues to the industry, and I think that that is a fairly narrow way of thinking of it. like when I think about people like you, when I think about people like Bruce Bump or John Horgan or Rick Dunkerley or like a lot of these people that are very admirable, they paid their dues to their craft and to their way of doing things and to learn it for themselves. And I think that if people are getting into this thing or trying to push themselves and motivate themselves, it really is more of a duty to explore your own mind and your own possibilities and your own limitations and whatnot, more than it is trying to conform to like some I don't know, like, oh, there's a dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, squirrel.
Trust me, there's
But you know, like
nobody here. Nobody here. Hey, shut up.
that's okay. We're I know we talked earlier about that, but when I was talking with Lynn Ray, he had like geese or ducks or something like that that were like walking by. but but you know, I think like you are the person that sits inside of or like blocks yourself from achieving things.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
I think that like what I've discovered is like it just has. I mean, you have to be the one to kind of break those seals and to push yourself. And if we can all be a little bit more respectful of just the process of failing and learning uh, and trying to figure out ourselves, that it becomes, well, it doesn't make it easier, but at least it makes it more understandable that you're doing it for a reason and it's coming from you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to be your own self motivator. You know, if it's daylight hours, I'm out here. Sometimes into the night, I'm out here. I mean, that's just all I want to do. I get up in the morning, run out in the shop, and get to work. Go shoot some horses, come back and play in the shop. I call it playing in the shop, and I don't say. A guy brought it up to me. He brought his horse out here for me to shoe, and he said, "You know, you said something to me once. You said I don't say I have to go to work. I say I get to go to work. You know, some people don't get to go to work." And he's like, it made me think a little bit because you know he says I don't love my job, but you know it's a good job. I'm going to support my wife and my kids, and you know make decent money, and you know it changed my whole perspective on things. You know I get to go to work. Some people don't get to go to work, and some people don't get to work at two jobs that are awesome. That's me. I mean I have two jobs that are very gratifying. I love that. So I don't. I think yeah, a lot of it's your state of mind. And so when I find myself saying, you know, I got to go to work, I'm like, no, I get to go to work. So it's just your own positive attitude. You know, I was raised by the most positive person in the world, and I think I got a bunch of that. So I don't know. That's my driver, my outlook. I think that helps me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if anybody thinks about your work or your contributions towards knife making, uh, like I want them to realize that there's a lot of God given talent, but then there's an exceptional amount of hard earned
Oh,
talent, and
definitely.
that's the thing. It's like I think that we might be given gifts, but what we do with those things is really the determining factor whether the rest of the world gets to benefit from them or whether they are actually realized gifts. You know.
Exactly. That's a true statement. You know, God gives us the willpower. You know, two arms and two legs if you're lucky, and you know, just gives you the want and the drive, and then it's what you do with it.
Well, I know that you have a full day of other things that you'd probably rather be doing, and I'm going to let you get back to it. You know, I just admire your work and I admire your ethic, and I think that that's an incredible gift to the rest of us to be able to see that energy that you put into it and your willingness to, you know, get shit done, as it were.
Well, I thank you. I really appreciate it. This was pretty fun, actually. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're welcome on any other time you want to. I'm sure that we can dig into other components of things. You know, I Damascus really fascinates me, and that's also one reason why I wanted to kind of embrace this forged ABS type of route, is really just to kind of like, I don't know, force myself into something where I have to. Um, I have to financially necessitate getting into Damascus and whatnot, because right now it's like, it is a big ask to try to re-outfit my entire shop with all the stuff that I need to forge. But that kind of pushes me in a direction where I consider that, like, getting a certification like that is like paying your way to a certain knowledge set. And so Damascus really interests me, and like kind of what you're doing is fascinating. I've really enjoyed all this the newer mosaic Damascus concepts and whatnot, especially what's being done with some of this 3D printing canister Damascus stuff.
Oh yeah.
Steve Schwarzer has been talking about that a lot, and I've seen it pop up other places. So mosaics boggle my mind too. I just don't know if I can think that dimensionally about things.
It's cool because every time you four-way it, something else comes up. That's pretty cool. I'm like, all of a sudden you've got another pattern in there. I'm like, well, that's neat. And then, if you four-way it and then forge it on the bias, which is what I like to do, is just re-square it the other way, and then put a little whoopee going through it, and put 4 of those together. That's just kind of fun. So that kind of the sky's the limit, and sometimes it doesn't work out. You just have junk. And then sometimes it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, one day when you get to a point where you want to like write a book or something like that on Damascus and different patterns and stuff, you need to do it, but then with all of your kind of like vernacular. Like, I want somebody to sit there and figure out what does a whoopagon look like, describing how to do something. I love that. It's great.
That's funny.
All right, Kelly. Well, it's incredible pleasure, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day that is divided up amongst a lot of duties and stuff. But I hope that I get to see more through social of how you play in the shop and whatnot. And I'm just I admire your work a lot.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Good Old Blades podcast. Remember that you are loved, and God bless.